So we've gathered here today to explain a little bit about the ad hoc trucking committee and their recommendations that went before the Board of Supervisors, and essentially the process from here on out to have changes made to the county's ordinance code. So a few formalities. We provided sign-in sheets in the back, so if you want to provide your name and an email or a phone number, we'll make sure and make you aware of when the matter goes before either the Planning Commission and then onto the Board of Supervisors. We included yellow speaker cards out on the back table there as well, that if you'd like to come up and speak for, what we'll say ideally is about 3 minutes. We'll probably give anyone up to about 5 minutes to kind of speak and offer some comments. Maybe to begin, so I'm Neil Hay. I'm the Director of Development Services. I think, a fair majority of you may know who I am. Certainly Doug Libby, our Principal Planner, is here as well, and we've been working on this item for quite some time. And so what we're here before you is to discuss and maybe kind of go through and make sure everybody understands what the actual recommendations are. And then you're offered an opportunity to make comments that we have staff as well as the meetings being recorded, so we can then take your comments into consideration, and we will summarize them and provide them to both the Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors. One thing to be clear for everybody, so there's no votes being taken today, there's no action being taken today, and there's nothing going to change with regards to current truck yards as of today. We merely are trying to give a public forum so that people can see the written copies of the documents. We tried to distribute some electronically through PDF so that anyone could, once again, review them, look at them. Our department's received a number of written comments online. And so we're going to, like I say, take all those into consideration. But we won't be taking any votes. You can see there's no county supervisors present today. It merely was, this meeting was scheduled as an opportunity for you to kind of speak, kind of raise some of your concerns. And obviously we're going to take note of those. One of the things I certainly can share with you is that probably these recommendations aren't going to make, I guess we'll say, maybe either side happy. We certainly have the residents of Sutter County that live in various communities and various areas that have complained to our department, and I will say it's not just the Oswald Road area, but our county and our department does receive complaints essentially about truck operations kind of throughout the county. And I will say that's literally from the north of Live Oak, pretty much to the south, probably all the way south besides the 9970 split. So the recommendations and the discussions that took place were tried to summarize into the documents that we had. They were presented to the Board of Supervisors. And I think everybody remembers there were essentially 6 main recommendations, with one of them being an annual operating permit. And so the annual operating permit, the board did not authorize staff to move forward with that. They pulled that from consideration and had to go back to the ad hoc committee for consideration. And at the ad hoc committee, that, I'll say, recommendation is not coming forward to bring an annual operating permit as a change to the ordinance, at least at this time, is what the ad hoc committee has decided. So that'll come out to play more as the process goes forward and you see the ordinance changes. What's going to happen after this meeting is that essentially Doug, our staff, myself, will bring the matter before the Planning Commission. Right now we're thinking of April 3rd. That'll be a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. at the board chambers there on 2nd Street. And so the Planning Commission will hear all the suggested changes to the to the ordinance code. And then they will make a recommendation either supporting or not recommending the changes. And then their essentially vote goes on to the Board of Supervisors. And then the Board of Supervisors, it'll be presented to them. It's either going to be in May. It kind of depends on the action of the Planning Commission, but it's either going to be sometime in May. At the latest it will be is June 11th. That's a Tuesday. It would be at 3 p.m. at the board chambers. All the board meetings are 3 p.m. on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month on 2nd Street. So just to give you some idea what the timeline is, like I said, if you provide an email, then our department will put together a group of emails that we'll send out to everyone to let you kind of know the status of our process. And like I say, the other thing that's going to happen is that all the comments that we receive, we're going to package up nice and neatly, and we'll be sure and share those with the Planning Commission and the county supervisors. and then they'll also be included in the documents that go to each one of those, Planning Commission and the board. So with that said, we have an Excel spreadsheet up on the spreadsheet that I thought we would highlight some of the kind of the main components of the recommended changes, just to make sure everybody's kind of aware. I'll say this really isn't so much of a question and answer session. It's just kind of more of an opportunity for us to put out there. We may explain a little bit between Doug and myself as to what the intent is. Like I say, this is not the final wording of everything that's going to be incorporated in the ordinance, but this is essentially the intent of the ad hoc committee. So probably one of the biggest things that had to be determined is the designation of a small truck yard and a large truck yard. And so essentially the committee went and selected, after some discussion, that 5 would be the number. So if you have 5 trucks, and that includes the cabs and the trailers, so that a cab and a trailer is 1 truck. So 5 of those would be considered a small truck yard, 6 and more would be considered a large. Let's see, one of the things that's been requested is that whenever applications for truck yards get submitted to our department, that residents within a half a mile get notified. And there's been some discussion as to what that radius will be. Currently, it's 400 feet. So if you live within 400 feet of a truck yard, you get a letter from our department saying our county or our department's received, an application and it's going to be considered at some point in the date. I've highlighted the ones in yellow because this is kind of a difference between large and small. So going forward, small truck yards essentially would not have to go before the Board of Supervisors initially, is that they would submit their documents to our department would review them, and if everything checked out, we could essentially approve a project at our level. Neighbors, residents, anyone essentially in the county could do the process to where a matter would be brought before the Planning Commission. So then the project would be presented to the Planning Commission, and then they would vote on it. And then if the applicants didn't like the outcome of the Planning Commission, then they can pay what there is a standard appeal fee to take it to the Board of Supervisors and have the board vote on it. For large truck yards, all the projects get presented to the Planning Commission, and then depending on the outcome, they either can go to the Board of Supervisors or they can just stay with the Planning Commission. Let's see. So projects for small truck yards, projects wouldn't be subjected to the county's design guidelines if they're in an ag zone. So the county is trying to make some consideration for farming operations, agricultural operations, and trucking operations. And one of the things that came out in the discussions were that there are a variety of family farms throughout the county that have, we'll say, roughly between 5 and less trucks, and they need to be able to park those. And so right now they're parking them essentially on their property, but that's not in compliance with the county standards. So this is an opportunity to modify the county's ordinance so that would be allowable. Kellen, can you go tap that, please? Sweet. Password. Awesome. Thank you, Doug. So large truck yards would be subject to the county's design guidelines as they currently are. Let's see, an existing, consideration is that both large and small truck yards have to be screened from essentially public roads and we'll say residential land, so residential neighbors. There's a consideration for light poles, so it just spells out essentially the light poles would be limited to be 25 feet or less, and then you have to essentially shield it so that the lights that are on the perimeter of your property don't spill over onto either adjoining neighbors and other property. The yellow, once again, is, I highlighted the difference. So for a small truck yard, you need a 25-foot driveway, essentially to comply with the county standards. If you go with a large truck yard, then our standard is a 40-foot driveway. And that's essentially to try to, in consideration for the number of, if you had trucks coming and going at the same time, the 40-foot is the current commercial standards out of the Public Works Improvement Book. So no big significant changes to what we're requiring, but we're just trying to highlight the fact that it's a difference. Can you kind of scroll down a little for me, please, Helen? Just like over on that right vertical bar. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. So for a small truck yard project along the state highway have to comply with Caltrans standards. And that's going to be the same whether it's, I'll say a large or small. But one of the conditions that Caltrans we've seen here as of late is that they're requiring acceleration and deceleration lanes or turn lanes. So that's something we're trying to make applicants aware of because it can affect everybody differently. And so the challenge is if you have a yard that is on a county road, then you essentially deal with our department and we stipulate conditions. If you have a yard that is off of the state route system, then Caltrans will provide a condition that the Board of Supervisors can't waive, the county can't waive. It's just their condition to access their state highway because they have to provide you with an encroachment permit to do the work. Access gates are the same, that they're 65 feet off the right-of-way, and that's so that the truck and the trailer can get off of the road if you have a gate that has to be opened and closed. Same, so we have automobile and truck access ways. So for a small truck yard, you can gravel the yard for parking areas for the trucks and passenger autos. For a large truck yard, one of the considerations is to have the truck parking area paved. And essentially the consideration of that was due to issues with dust and then stormwater runoff. Let's see, wheel washing requirements for both large and small is an issue that may be required, so it's not mandatory, but it's an issue that for yards that have, say, gravel and that type of thing, it's become a fairly standard complaint to our department that gravel is getting tracked out onto the county roads. And that creates a vehicle safety issue for the other, whether they're automobile or truck users. Then we talk about on-site repair. So for a small truck yard, there's really no building for doing the on-site repairs and no storage of parts. For a large truck yard, essentially it's looked at, yes, repair and storage can occur ideally if it's inside a building. And we list some of the things you can repair: windshield wipers, headlights, and we list that 2 and up trucks could be kept on site in a surfaced area. So essentially if you had 2 trucks that you're essentially using as parts vehicles for the rest of your fleet is a consideration that we heard. Drainage plan for both facilities. So as everybody knows, especially during this winter, the county has a real limited drainage network. We have roadside ditches that can get easily overwhelmed with runoff. And while our department is trying to work and improve the process, one of the conditions that we put on pretty much all projects, especially if you're going and adding asphalt, because that's going to create stormwater runoff, is that you need to keep the runoff on your site and have no net increase to the county storm drain system. So what that means, if you have a 10-acre site, and your 10-acre site before your project will drain through about a 6-inch diameter pipe, then when you go and do your project and add gravel or add asphalt, then we're going to expect that it's still going to drain through the same 6-inch diameter pipe. So that's why you see various facilities that have storm detention ponds in their yards. And it's because if we just let you put in like a 24-inch diameter pipe and run off all your, you'd essentially overwhelm the county system. And you'd either flood the ditch, flood the road. So it is something that the county's working on in various areas. But so for now, this is a recommendation. Truck engine idling to be consistent with state law, and there's been lots and lots of talk about it, and I actually found a PowerPoint by the state. So if you have essentially it's the state law says that like pre-2008, your vehicle can idle for 5 minutes if you're within 100 feet of a residence. But if you're within 100 feet of a residence after 2008, you have to have a vehicle that'll turn off after 5 minutes. But then if you have a clean idle sticker on your truck and it's certified, and it's after 2008, then that vehicle can idle all day, all night long, according to the state standards, which I think is probably news and some information to residents, and I'll say our staff as well, but it is a state law, and so that's why we said that the idling requirements will be consistent with state law. We talk about the trash, so a 55-gallon drum to be provided so that garbage could be obviously disposed of, and so for a small truck yard, just one. For large, it's a 55-gallon drum for every 5. Let's see, we say that we're going to require a plan for large truck yards, dust and erosion. Let's see. The county for large truck yards is going to require studies to talk about traffic, noise, and air pollution. Let's see. We're going to certainly require landscaping improvements that I think a lot of people are aware of. And then what's going to happen after all these recommendations is separately our department will create a noise ordinance that will apply to everybody in the county, not just trucking, but essentially all the citizens of the county and all the businesses of the county. There may be some leeway or latitude given to agriculture, but that will be a whole separate process that comes before the board separately, and there will be an opportunity to comment. So that's really the, I'll say the gist and kind of a summary of the main changes that came out of the ad hoc committee's recommendations. So what we're going to give now is give everyone an opportunity to come to the mic. Like I say, you can talk for 3 to 5 minutes. Certainly express your concerns, your comments that you want staff to consider as we move this item forward to the Planning Commission and then on, ideally, to the Board of Supervisors for adoption. I will say one thing to make everybody aware is that, so because these were the ad hoc committee's recommendations, in one form or the other, they are going to get presented to the board for their consideration. And while there may be opportunities for modification of what ultimately gets approved by the board, staff's going to take the ad hoc recommendations and formalize those into the ordinance language. And then all of the comments that we receive along the way, like I say, both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors will be made aware of so that they can consider those comments, so that if you're not able to make it to a Planning Commission or a board meeting, still your comments will be heard. So with that, I'll open up the mic, and anyone who wants to come up and speak is welcome. I'll say we've got this hall until 4 o'clock, and certainly if we have that many people speaking, then we'll be happy to be here that time. Kind of once we get to the point to where there's not many people speaking, or we have a lull, and I'll kind of ask if we have any more people, and then after that we'll essentially kind of close this meeting and let everybody get on with their day. So feel free to come and speak. Pardon? Yeah, we have the yellow speaker cards, which I mean, we'll call them up and then you can come. I think we can use some there. That'll work better. Last. So how about Garpreet here, please?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the trucker community. And as far as the urine bottles go, that could be anybody peeing in bottles. And as far as the dust goes, there's dust. So if you're taking pictures on a windy day, of course there's going to be dust. That's like looking at traffic in rush hour and saying there's too much traffic. And there's newer equipment, so there's really nothing to worry about there. That makes less noise. And well, I'm just a driver. I don't own a yard or anything, so just wanted to have my voice heard. So if we could find some middle ground somewhere. And thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Harpreet Thiara? Okay. We can always come back to you. We'll give you one more time. Satwan Sahoda?
Hello, my name is Sat. I'm the owner of Alien Transport LLC. We are a family-owned and operated business based out of Sutter County since 1984. My father started this business from working in the fields and buying his own rig and slowly started expanding his trucking company. Now we are one of the oldest trucking companies based out of Sutter County. During the early times, we used to park in front of SunSuite when there wasn't many trucks in the county. Now, years later, we have a lot of trucking companies in Sutter County. I don't blame anyone parking in ag zones in this county due to the fact that the county can only offer ag land. And there is only so many commercial properties. There isn't anywhere else we can go. My father bought a property on Wilson Road, south of Yuba City, out of a residential area in the ag zone, where he isn't bothering anybody. He put everything he had on the line for this property, just so he can park a couple trucks. So the reality of the situation, I would like to make some points after reviewing the guidelines the county approved. One rule is that we have to tell our neighbors within a half-mile radius that we have a truck yard. Well, from Highway 99 to my property, it isn't even half a mile. Why do I need to go inform people that I have a truck yard past my property? My neighbors on all sides are fields, and my closest neighbor is 1,000 feet away from me. I am surrounded by fields. I don't have any problems with my neighbors. I also have a light on Wilson Road, which probably makes my yard one of the safest yards in the county. We all are getting dragged into the situation of Oswald Road, which I agree there are too many trucks in one area, but just based off Oswald Road, the whole county shouldn't have to suffer. And these rules should be applied to the areas where truck parking issues do occur. Everyone should not fall under one rule-fits-all category. Also, an acceleration lane and a deacceleration lane shouldn't be put on any yards unless they are based off the highway, because there's no sense in me doing that because I turn onto Wilson Road. I'm not sure how these rules are being made and expect everyone to follow these. Also, the wheel washing station is not needed. There are thousands of truck stops in California, and not one of these truck stops have a wheel washing station. I used to drive a truck for 4 years, so I know. Last thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, on my property, I used to have an RV parking, a scale permit, an office permit, and I used to have a prune dryer there, and that was in 1923. Bottom line is that we should all be looked at individually, case by case, based on the size of parking availability, and not based on how much money you have to spend to meet all the criteria that you guys gave us. Some people cannot afford to lay down asphalt, and some people cannot afford acceleration and deacceleration lanes. Everyone should be based on each property individually. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Satman Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. In December, the Sutter County Board of Supervisors had a meeting, and this truck parking issue was discussed. Truck driver asked for the vote to be postponed so we can work together to address the safety issue. Our voice was not heard. Over the past few months, the larger trucking company has not been asked for their feedback on the proposed requirement. If you are in our position, you would feel frustrated. That is how we feel. We are frustrated. The Punjabi population in Surrey County is very large, and the trucking sector accounts for 8% of our county employment. Our voice is not being heard. Over-elected officials have failed us by not bringing us to the table. It has taken the county 3 months to have this meeting for public input. This is not equal treatment. Anyway, since we are here today, let me point out why the proposed zoning code is flawed. First, why are the trucker being treated even just like small truck yard, like large trucker yard, based on what the code says, some yard that has only 2 trucks would be required to have a permanent bathroom facility on site? This is ridiculous. Most drivers do not sleep in these yards. They park and go home. Also, lighting, sewage, and a drainage plan all sound great. But who is going to pay for that? Do you expect small yards, owner with 2 trucks or little more to pay for all that? Let me tell you, no truck yard owner will want to pay for all these requirements. So, if Sutter County truly wants to improve safety, how about you build us these truck yards, build them and we will pay the park there. Yes, it will cost the county money, but you will have a stable revenue source for many years to come. Show us how it is done. Lead by example. Do not force us to do something that you know is too difficult to manage. If the county wants to penalize truck drivers, then we will be forced to leave and take our business with us. Do not let this come to that. Let's work together. I hope you will consider all that, and let's discuss it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nash?
I just want to say thanks for having this meeting, giving us a chance to speak. But I wanted to say something, about these rules. I don't think they address the real issue here. I've said it before. The main issue is in the Oswald area, where we have a small group of citizens. I think there's like 2 of them here today, where they systematically get together and complain on different things. I know this because I was at the first meeting. I think Ed Smith was there, Ernst the cop, Leah Summers, and they said, hey, I'll complain about this, you complain about that. We need to all keep complaining. You can even ask Helen how many complaints she gets from that area from the same people. So they just want a way to find the truckers that are already there just so they can shut us down. That's their ultimate goal. They're not happy about these restrictions because they don't go far enough in their opinion. But these restrictions also don't stop anyone from having a truck yard. So we can actually have, nothing there says we can't have more truck yards in the Oswald area. The way I'm reading it, doesn't stop anybody. Even the golf course, we could have a truck yard there. The main problem is infrastructure. And in Sutter County, we got two problems. We got a lot of problems, but let's just say 2 problems related to trucking, truck parking, and infrastructure in the Oswald area. We might be able to solve those, with those 2 problems, with one solution. So if we build some infrastructure over there, maybe get some more truck parking, that can solve the problem. But the posse group, Protect Our South Sutter Environment, a couple of them are here. They're going to keep complaining no matter what is on here. I'm sure the office is familiar with some of their leaders, Ed Smith. I'm not sure if he's here. But their whole agenda is to just complain. I've even given them my cell phone number, their attorney my cell phone number. Call me if you have any problems. They have yet to reach out to me, and it's been over 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe a few things that I could add just to clarify is regarding Oswald Road and State Route 99, so the county has hired a consultant to study that intersection in an effort to identify a few alternatives as what could be constructed at that intersection to improve the traffic safety for both autos and for trucks. It's probably going to take about 18 months or a little bit less because it's on the state highway. The county's had to partner with Caltrans. The county, my department, essentially is paying for the contract with the consulting firm. It was competitively bid and selected and all went before the Board of Supervisors. And then once it is designed, the county will partner with Caltrans and possibly some of the truck operators along Oswald Avenue in an effort to seek the appropriate funds we need to actually construct it. And there's a couple different alternatives that are already being talked about, and just so everybody's aware, so a roundabout is one alternative that Caltrans has to consider for their improvements on a state route. They have consultants across the state designing them at various locations, and then traffic signals, which are obviously fairly standard. But just to make everybody aware, the county's aware of the issues and the conflicts between trucks and automobiles at that intersection, and also with the high volume of traffic that's going both north and south as residents of Yuba City commute to jobs either in Sacramento or Placer County. I think the other thing I can say is that I think the Board of Supervisors in all of their meetings have said openly that they do not want to shut down truck yards and they do not want to see trucking go away, but I believe they want to see trucking essentially coexist with the residents. And while I can certainly see there's a lot of truck operators here today, and I've spoken with a number of them, just as I've spoken with a number of the residents, I think part of the challenge that we have is trying to establish some standards that both the truck operators and the residents are made aware of, and then that my department ultimately is responsible for enforcing. So with that, we'll kind of move on to the next speaker, Sarb Tiara.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. I really appreciate everybody getting together and coming to this. It's a serious matter because here we're just talking about, one thing I really want to talk to you guys about is how are you guys making these yards, 5 trucks or less and more. Majority of our community farmers here, they got more than 5 trucks sitting for, I don't know how long in their yard. What are you guys going to do about that? Go shut them all down? There's nothing discussed about that. Every farmer that I can name 10 of them sitting in this room, they have more than 5 trucks. I know there's people that have been farming for 50 to 100 years in this county. So the issue is this, I think we need to take this serious. We cannot just take it one way, the way we're all taking this thing. It's being attacked just one direction. Like a few people already said this. It's coming from one issue. Neil, I know you guys are doing a good job trying to get that corridor all cleaned up. But it can't be on everybody's back here. People are trying to do a good job in this community and trying to listen, trying to do the things you guys are asking them to do. Like this bathroom situation. 99% of our county is in a flood zone. Anybody can come into your office and we won't get a permit unless it's 5 or 10 feet up in the air. And then we have to put some different septic tanks. We all talked about this. We all know the situation. And it comes to the drainage issue. When the gill sizer is all backed up, there's nothing you or Mr. Samrar or anybody else can do about that. The water can't go anywhere. So it's going to sit there. I've been in this community for 50 years, and there's other people here longer than me. So we know how the system works. I was on the levees when the damn thing was going to break in 86 and 96. We all sat there. Everybody was evacuated, but we were still here trying to protect this county, this city. One friend of mine, Dan Silva's not here. Mr. Munger, all these guys, we were all working at the levees at those times. But nobody had this problem that we're giving these. Look in this room. Look what we got. All Indians on one side. Because they all got trucks. Is that fair? If we cannot get the education, if there's other people who can talk to these guys in Punjabi and give them the education that we need to. But we cannot humiliate these people everywhere. There's a lot of revenue. We talked about this before. I don't want to talk about over and over the same thing again. We need to take it seriously. Our supervisors, I'm glad none of them are here right now because I would be attacking whoever's here. They should not be doing this to us. When it comes down to the time to get a vote, when it comes time to get the money, everybody sitting in that, they wrote checks for them. Today, nobody will represent them. That's a bad thing. Five truck, I've been hearing it for over months and months and months. It's not fair. One gentleman, Mr. Samra, he's got over 500 trucks. He's running all over the state. The biggest problem he's got in Yuba City. Biggest problem. He's paid for the street light. You know that. Whatever he was required to do, he did it. Any yards are being built or anything you guys are asking, they're doing it. People are spending the money, so much money ahead of time to get, if they're going to get somewhere or not. There's thousands of dollars. All those fees that we talked about, some of those don't apply. But let's get a game plan that's going to make sense. This is not making sense. I mean, there's a lot of dollars sitting here. You guys got a lot of other things to do. Every time they give you something, you guys got to do what needs to be done. But this is not the right way of doing it. This isn't. I'm sorry. We'll do anything you guys want us to do, but let's do it right. Let's where it's fair for everybody. It's not fair. It's not fair. Like, Mr. Sutter, he was here, which is right. What he said is not one thing he said wrong. He's been there. He's got one of the safest yard. He's done that. He's been in there for that many years. Never a problem. Today he's got a problem. We have yards. We have trucks sitting in these farms. I don't know what's ag exempt, what's not. Dust control. We have this. We're a community, farming community. We have drainage. We got to have that problem because our system, the city or the county has not got it right. I mean, they're trying to have us fix our yards first, but even the 6-inch or 12-inch pipe that you talked about, I get it. We can make holes everywhere and store the water, and then we still got to pump it out somewhere. Once it sits in the hole for a long time, then you're going to say we contaminated the water. Then we're going to have to pond the water, but then we're going to have to put the liner in there. I don't want to be the bad person saying this, but I think we should sit down and still, these supervisors, and I'm saying it to all of them, they are not doing it. They're just putting it on your guys' back and letting the attorneys take care of it. But they need to be talking to all these people. Hey, we have a problem. Let's fix it. But I don't think we have that big of a problem that we're trying to make an issue out of. We can fix it. Let everybody do their job. There's so much community money, so much tax money is coming in this country. Let us work. I'm sorry if I've taken too much time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Karen Baines.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to just share in, mutual thoughts that we have for our community. I've been a lifelong resident of Sutter County, and I guess I'm standing before you with a humble request, right? And the asking for you guys to be fair, right? Fair and considerate. I mean, the ordinance, it's obvious that you guys have tunnel vision or got your blinders on and saying it's going to happen one way or the other. You shared some dates with us, and that we still have time. We have time to make the changes, right? And I think the most important change that needs to be made to this ordinance is that it shouldn't have a financial strain or any negative impact at all on the trucking industry, right, or the applicant. That my request to you is to try to find common ground. Look at this side of the room, right? And we're not here to wrestle one side versus the other. Or, this isn't a north versus south thing, but you guys are calling it a conflict, or it's the residents versus the truck yards, the residents versus the truckers, right? All these myself, all these successful entrepreneurs, they're all residents of Sutter County, right? So think those things through, and remember that everybody looks for the betterment of this community, right? Nobody's trying to take advantage of a situation, whether the ordinance wasn't in place or people weren't complying, right? Don't be so pushy or whatever now. Just try to give it some time and let folks better understand or feel like they were a part of the process. There's a little quote. I was just sitting here, I was looking around the room, and it just seems like it's the Sutter County versus the trucking industry. And I remember, I don't know if I read it on a bumper sticker or where I seen it, but it said, if you've got it, a truck brought it, right? So I mean, think of that stuff, right? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this industry. These folks have made Sutter County successful. People are talking about tax dollars, revenue, but we're all your neighbors, right? We're in it for the long run. I mean, I would just ask you to take this consideration that to help your fellow residents of Sutter County. And that, having said that, thank you for your time. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, because numbers speak volumes, right? And with the attendance here today, that I'm proud of the community, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And thank you for your consideration.
Thanks so much. Tarek Mahmood.
Hi everyone, my name is Tariq, and I've been a resident over 15 years in Sutter County, and we're building a truck yard in M1 zone in between Yuba City and Live Oak, which is on our right on Highway 99. There's so many restrictions and regulations by the Sutter County, which is not make sense, and it needs to be fair, because we're bringing the trucking and business in Sutter County, but the Sutter County is pretty much pushing us. So I've been seeing like more than 20 to 30 people that came from other counties to get a jobs here as a truck drivers, as owner operators, as a truckers. But I don't know why the Sutter County is pretty much, it's hard to say, but they're being racist and haters, so which does not make sense. So I just want to request, so please be fair with the truckers, because we're the one who bring in the business in this industry. So please be fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Nar here.
Hello,
Good afternoon.
how are you?
Good.
Just talking about the trucks, but looking at the basic area of Oswald and the Berry Road area, I don't know when that light's going to come, when time's going to come around to look at the traffic study's going to get done. It's probably 18 months or whatever that is. After that, it might be a couple of years in planning, then maybe 2 or 3 more years to get it put together. I think maybe Sutter County should look at basically utilizing Berry Road lights, if there's a possibility of looking at it that way. There's no way in the afternoon, past 3 o'clock, you're never going to make a left turn off of, you're never going to go south from Oswald to Highway 99. The second thing was, dust control and all that. For farmers, there is no dust control. There's no ordinance in place that you can basically use anything. They have a right to farm, and when right to farm means basically if there's dust, there's dust. And farming equipment, basically, you're talking about trucks and things like that, but you go basically to one of Sarb's ranches, there's probably 7 trucks in one spot, 5 trucks on the other place, 3 trucks there, and you count all those things, but he uses all those things, all those trucks for himself. How do you regulate that? You really can't. I mean, he's using it for farming purposes, his almond haulings, and you go to the Palmer Brothers packing shed. I mean, they got a bunch of their own trucks over there also, but they only use it for the small season, and they need those things. But those are, I think the farming should be exempt from all this. And this other stuff that's going on, that we do need to come together with our neighbors and with our people from what's that, Orchard? Yeah. Orchard, right? We never sat down, never had one meeting together. Basically, we're fighting in two different rooms. I feel like we're, two attorneys are basically taking us from one side to the next side. We never came together and had one meeting. I never had one anyways. No one ever invited me to one. I like to sit down with them, see what their concerns are, what we can do. The other thing, one of the things was lights. We're given a 25-foot light, the light ordinance. So the trucks are about 13 to 13 and a half feet tall, the trailers. So when you shine that light on there, like on Oswald Road at Sanga's truck yard, he's complied with everything. But when he parks a truck right there, the light's going to deflect and it goes onto the road. So I think you should look at that ordinance. Maybe if the lights were taller and they were low beam or something like that, one light would do probably cover more area than just putting lights out into places and trying to deflect them right on the truck tailgates or truck backsides, which are chromed. So it deflects right back on the road. And whoever's going down that road, they're going to complain back and forth all the time. But until we basically sit down with our neighbors and we can figure this thing out, we're never going to come to an end. I mean, this is going to keep going on and on. When's Sutter County going to bring us together? And that's the question I have. So today's thing is basically, the other thing we're just having a little get together today, whatever's going on. I think our supervisors should have been here. And we could basically talk about something. Maybe we could come out with some resolution, or maybe a new idea to bring us together. So none of those guys are here today. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Tejman.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is really a very important issue in the trucking industry. As you can see from the people that are here, most of the times if you try to meet one of them, they wouldn't have time. It's a very time-consuming business. But this is a very, very serious issue, and they have taken their time today. They were there last month, a couple of months back, and let's to go back. This Sutter County started as an ag community. It's a farming community. It had a lot of businesses, canneries and processors and so forth. These kind of regulations have driven most of them out of town. But we're not driving the truckers out of town because they live here. Del Monte Cannery, my dad, when we were new from India, he worked there after working in a farm in the evening shift. And a lot of teachers worked there. A lot of people had summer job as an extra. But people didn't like the Del Monte Cannery. The neighbors didn't like it because it smelled and created noise and dust. And we drove it away, not just relocated to somewhere, just drove it out of our community and lost a lot of money. And now a lot of that ground has been sitting empty, where counties spent taxpayer money improving, putting fountains, and then we drove Harder Cannery out. And we keep driving these businesses out instead of trying to address the issue. If the neighbors have a concern, let's address that concern. Don't throw the baby out with the dirty water. Just let's save the baby. We need this industry. We don't have much left here. Why do we have such a traffic on the highway? You know why? Because they're all going to job in Sacramento, Roseville, and Woodland. Nobody's coming to Yuba City for work because we haven't been very friendly to allow jobs, to create jobs in this community. Every time somebody comes over, we act like Apple and HP and Amazon, everybody's waiting in line to come to our communities, and let's set really strict standards because we're the number one, we're the best community in this world. Come on, look at the housing prices in Bay Area and Sacramento and what property's worth in this town. Is anything wrong with us? Nobody's building in our city right now. We had a building boom. You'll go to Elk Grove, Roseville, Sacramento, Folsom. There's construction going on everywhere. We don't have that going on here. Who's going to all these businesses in this town? A lot of these people are keeping restaurants open, car dealerships open, and because we receive few complaints, they may be valid complaints, but let's not shut down a business. Let's figure out how to address this. I worked for government 32 years. I retired from the county. I've been in politics. I've been a city councilman, so I worn kind of every hat. As a staff at the county, I always looked at it as a project. You know, it's an 8-to-5 job. I got to work on this project. But to the people, it's not just this ordinance or a project. This is their livelihood. Not only there, but our community's livelihood. The Sutter County has not done its job. It's dropped the ball. And it's not you guys. And it's not the current administration or the politician. For ages, we've been dropping the ball. We haven't been keeping up with the infrastructure. We should have had traffic lights on Oswald. And we need that traffic light. I met with Caltrans, head of Caltrans, and our CEO that just retired. You know, we were looking at $2.7 million back then to put those lights. It's probably more, but that's something we need to do. I don't care if we don't have another truck added to our community. We're waiting for a disaster on that intersection, no matter what we write on these papers. This doesn't address noise control, dust control. It doesn't even address the most important issue, which is somebody's going to die on that intersection because the county and Caltrans dropped the ball and didn't put the traffic lights. Sar brought up the 5 trucks. If you go to a rice farmer, you probably count 20, 30 trucks parked there. So now farmers going to have to get permits to park their trucks. We need to invest in our infrastructure, and the county needs to get the money and county need to subsidize it. I think the truckers are willing to do their share, but they're not going to solve all the infrastructure problem by themselves. Let's work this together. Let's resolve our problem and make this community stronger. One of the truckers was quoted in the newspaper, PL Democrat, saying, "I don't want this to be the trucking capital of the world." I would be proud if it was the trucking capital of the world. What's wrong with trucking? You can't have anything. You can't have anything in life without trucking. Back to the county dropping the ball. If the county hadn't allowed houses out in the industrial area, out in the ag area, those houses wouldn't be there complaining today. Houses should be in the city. When I got on the city council, we make sure we're building houses where houses should be. Like-minded businesses should be together. If it's trucking, it should be trucking. If it's farming, why are we I was here in this room last Thursday. We had a ag department and UC Extension giving a lecture here, seminar. They were talking about how as a farmer, if you're spraying certain sprays, if there's a house within so many hundred feet of the house, you can't even spray that. But then you have to go around, draw a circle around your property within 500 feet, notify all your neighbors, and wait for the right wind, and wait for. Why is the county allowing this conflict? Keep the houses in town, keep the ag in the ag area. We had trucking in the city. It didn't mix. So what did? We moved the truckers out. We put no parking signs on Garden Highway, on Sunspeed Boulevard, and here and there, and all the truckers were driven out. So they looked for yards to park. And now, when they went there and they listened to you, they bought lands away from population like Sahutas. went way out, got a traffic light, not bothering anybody. And now we're telling them, we're gonna make some more rules. I think we need to start thinking from their perspective. They're our residents, they're our friends, they're not our enemy. Let's work together. Let's cut down on some of these rules. Let's make sure we address health and safety. We don't want people getting in accidents. We don't want people getting sick. And if there are legitimate complaints, let's address them. We could address them with existing laws. You know, before they brought up issues like prostitution, drugs. We don't need more laws. We have laws to address that. Let's not add new things, more requirements for these guys. Let them do their business and bring money to our community and let this economy thrive. And let's make this the trucking capital of the world. I think I'd be proud to say that. And lastly, we did drive away Del Monte, we did drive away Harder, but we're not driving away the trucking industry. They're here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Harpreet, would you like to speak? You're still good, or?
Good afternoon, everybody. All I got to say is the state got too many rules. They're applying on the truckers, so we don't want them anymore. And that's the first. The second thing, I was worried. We spent millions of dollars to fixing up our levees over here, and we're still considering in the flood zone. So that's the issues I have. The other thing is for the noise audience. How are you guys gonna implement that? Are you guys gonna make us to build a wall around the truck yards? It's not gonna happen. That takes about millions of dollars. It's not cheap. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who hasn't turned in a yellow speaker card that would like to speak? Otherwise, I have a few closing comments, and I'll let us get out of here. One more I should say. I appreciate it. Maybe, I mean, you've. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Came with that strength. You know, I think you heard every comment. When we talk about ad hoc committee, did all this, those guys don't even know. You guys put this all together. Should admit that, number one. Number two, go back maybe year and a half. There was no such a thing, code enforcement. Every single day, it's kind of joke for Indian community, Punjabi community. I respect code enforcement officer, but they go there, today is a $50 fine, $100 fine. Then Sunny Samra Legend, $1,000 a day fine. What a joke. Stop this. Give people enough time. We gave you guys almost 12, 13, 14 years. Sutter County administration so far could not cooperate with Caltrans. Just put one lousy light on Oswald Road. Do you guys admit that? Never happened. If you guys can take 12 years not to build up one, not even bring up that kind of revenue, how you expect from these people? They get up 4 o'clock in the morning, they work day and night, start implementing all these fines. Some people, I don't want to mention name, 10,000, 15,000, 50,000. Stop that joke. As far as all these requirements, in daily life, practically these things cannot happen. There's a lot of old area, people live there. So many puddle. When you walk through your car, that car brings the mud to the road. Now you are telling the trucker, they should have a wash area, this area, that area. Why be making that kind of joke? Follow with the flow, listen to the other county, go back to West Sacramento. Look at how they handle these kind of things. I don't want to repeat that again. Look at yourself. I bet all these supervisors should be here, listen all that crap. Last 20 years, what you guys bring to this Sutter County? No job at all. These guys are here, they're working hard, they're spending their own money, with their good credit, they're buying all these trucks. Why is this bothering you? Because they bring revenue to you guys? How people can buy the grocery from Benco, any other place, when early in the morning there's no truck on the dock? Why we making this thing, why we making everybody fool every day? Ad hoc committee, there was a 2 supervisors, you guys put all that stuff together. In daily life, and practically you can do all this. You have a control on the nature? Let's put it this way, Oswald Road, no truck. You have any prevention as a flood zone that area? You have any drainage issue? No. Do your part, then let other people do their part. The reason I'm just speaking, stop that fine. Stop it, period. Another thing is my request, or you can call it challenge. Trucking industry going to stay in Sutter County. We will knock the door all the way down. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, sir, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gurnam Pama. I'm a Sutter County resident since 47 years. Where we are sitting now, this used to be all orchards, houses around. We are talking dust. The farming practice has been changed now, totally. There used to be disc, tractor, wind, dust flowing all over the mall, all over the resident. We are trying to control Mother Nature. It's when raining, we see the puddles on the roads, and the wind come in the summertime, it's going to make dust more than the truckers. And the other thing I want to bring into your attention, what I see here and what I see there, we are living in the democratic country, and I think minority is trying to rule over the majority, and we have to watch for that. These guys paying their dues, if you guys punish these people, there's going to be part stores going to be hurt, a restaurant going to be hurt, fuel companies going to be hurt, and these guys are going to pull away. They cannot listen bullshit anymore. 2 weeks ago, I was in Texas, Houston. There you can buy fuel less than $2. And over here, California, we have to pay over $3, $4. So we already, these laws already got our skin off. We don't have no skin left. Please do fair thing for the community where everybody can live their life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, anybody else? Great. Yes, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Steve Smith. I'm the interim county administrator. I'm really pleased with the turnout today. I want to be clear on the format of the meeting. The supervisors were asked by staff to not be here so that we can move more quickly, try to set up meetings and have more meetings than just the board meetings in general. We're trying to reach out to the community and get input. So I'm really happy that you're all here to express yourselves. I'd also like you to know that this process is ongoing. So if you have additional comments or there are individuals that were unable to attend and they have comments, please feel free to send them to Development Services so that this can be considered before the item is taken before the Board of Supervisors. We really appreciate the input, and staff will consider all that when making recommendations. We're all the government, and we all need to play our part, and it was great to have you here today. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. So certainly appreciate the comments from everyone today, and I think I can certainly take some of your comments and thoughts to heart as the Director of Development Services. Essentially it's my responsibility ultimately to look at the county zoning code and what it means for all the residents and certainly the commercial businesses. And so I guess in the interest of trying to have this meeting that I guess has not materialized, certainly I can speak with one RCO's office and members of the public that might be interested in meeting with the truck community and see what I can set up. I guess I would ask that among yourselves, if you're able to come up with maybe like 10 representatives that you thought was a cross-section of your industry, then will take it and try to orchestrate a meeting to where maybe there could be this opportunity to kind of share some ideas. Hopefully everybody can understand. So the county has a zoning code that essentially Mr. Libby and my staff try to utilize when there's projects that are being proposed, and essentially it certainly is intended to try to be a balance between a quality of life for all the residents and support business, any business in the county. Where the problems run astray essentially is when the code doesn't get followed, and then another member of my department, Helen, gets involved and has to come out and pay site visits, not only to commercial businesses and not only to truck yards. There's a whole, slurry of cases that she has to pursue and we have to discuss. But in the interest in trying to move forward with, some ordinance changes that hopefully improve the operation of truck facilities, they improve the quality of life for residents, and everyone considers, some level of fairness, I will take it upon myself, like I said, to orchestrate a meeting. And it may take about 2 weeks or so to get that meeting together, but I guess I'm happy to speak with a few of you afterwards and stuff, or a lot of people have my email or my cell phone, but somehow I'm going to kind of need a handful to come together as a representatives for the group, that then if we sit down, no attorneys needed, I won't bring the county's attorneys and you don't need to bring your attorneys, and I'll ask and see if residents from Orchard Avenue and from Live Oak and various parts that have, I'll say, essentially, provided code enforcement cases to us, if they're willing to kind of sit down and meet and discuss the county zoning code. And if both sides are willing to come together, then great, we can have that meeting and we continue to move forward. If I'll say one or the other side aren't willing to meet, then, where our department is left is trying to take written comments and objections to what's been proposed, things you don't like. For example, it was a good point about the size of the truck yard, whether a small truck yard is 5 trucks or 10 or 15 or 20. So that's the kind of feedback that we're looking for, is that, whether or not you think a certain number of trucks should define a small truck yard. So with that said, I certainly appreciate everybody's attendance here today. And like I say, I think everybody's got my email and my contact information. The emails that we have from people that signed in will be sure and include you in any of the correspondence that occurs. The dates that I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, they're not set in stone, and it's not that my department is just looking to force this upon the county. But certainly we are trying to move forward with this in the interest of trying to improve the standards for everybody involved. Yes?
I think on that date, I think we should get some more time on it. It needs to happen. That's not fair.
It definitely needs to happen. And so, like I said, I'm going to try to see if in 2 weeks we can set a meeting. It doesn't mean the meeting has to occur in 2 weeks, but we definitely need to have a meeting and get it set so that I can get this project and the process moved ahead. And like I say, if people want to speak afterwards, we certainly can, and then we'll try to continue moving forward. Yes.
Can we make sure to educate our Sutter County staff? It seems like I'm getting a lot of complaints when we're actually going to Sutter County and trying to apply paperwork, we're not getting anybody help with that. So that's the biggest complaint I've been seeing. It's crazy how many things you're asking for, nobody can help you out what to do.
Yes, I will speak with my staff, and like I say, my staff has a very difficult job that, one, they have to try to understand your project and what you're trying to do within the constraints of the county's existing code. And part of these things are changes that actually, hopefully some people see that actually will help trucking. Some of the recommendations improve the quality of life for all residents, and some of them improve the quality of life, for the truck operators. And I just hopefully that people will take that into consideration, but we'll talk more about it. Thanks so much.